I'd like to call the City of Oldsmar City Council meeting of Tuesday, July 18th, 2017 to order. If you will please rise for your invocation and pledge that will be led by our City Attorney, Mr. Tom Trask.
Our Father in heaven, give us the power to clearly discern right from wrong. Allow our words and actions to be governed thereby and by the laws of this land. We ask for your inspiration to strive in our endeavors to serve the public. We also ask that you direct us so that above all things we will discharge our duties to the benefit of the people we serve. This we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Ann. Once again, welcome. We all do have jackets, but we were at a ribbon cutting out in the heat, and so we're still cooling off. So, pardon the non-jacket formal attire.
Some of us are.
Yeah. Well, you know, Dan. Welcome to the meeting. I'd like to call, the first item is our Citizens Open Forum, where you can address the council. I only have a couple of rules that you keep it to no more than 5 minutes. You state your name and address clearly for the record. And you can talk towards anything on tonight's agenda unless it is a public hearing, which I don't believe we have any of those. So you can address anything that's on tonight's agenda if you would wish at this time. Yep, first, I see an arm back there, yeah.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Dale Renbuer, 403 Arlington Avenue East, Oldsmar. I'd like to speak to item 11 and item 1 on tonight's agenda. Do I do it now or do I do it when they come up?
Yep, you can do it now.
All right, let me.
Because it's not, the only reason I said, you can address it now because it's not a.
My paper.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
The Community Redevelopment Agency authorized city attorney to prepare an ordinance rezoning vacant lot east to TCCN from R2. As a member of the planning board, I voted to send this up to you guys. But on continual thought on this, I would really like to see it going forward to TCCR and not commercial. Because if you do commercial, you can put a 4-story building against our back lot lines on Arlington Avenue East. And we don't like that idea. And that ties into number 11. Authorize the city manager to negotiate a development agreement with Meridian, who are they, Meridian East, for 52 townhomes, opening up School Street onto Arlington to St. Petersburg Drive East. I would recommend to council, or I would like council to say, let's not do this. And it kind of impacts where we were going to put our community center, or whatever that was going to be, that money went to Canal Park. This is 52 townhomes. That's, 200 people, 104 cars. It impacts traffic, I feel, in a negative manner. And if you kind of look at the land development code, there's a lot of questions I have, but since it's going to go, I don't know if it would go forward through notifications.
There'll be probably at least 2 more meetings.
Right, and there's a funny thing about notifications with that. It's like we own the land. So it's not the city dealing with a landowner, the city is the landowner. So I have some questions about that. But you guys have a checklist on these things. The amendment will not adversely burden public facilities, including traffic carrying capabilities of our streets. Well, the TCCN, you open up State Street to Arlington, it's going to increase the traffic in Arlington by X amount of cars coming out of that neighborhood, which to me, the density just doesn't fit the character. And number 10, in these zoning change requirement checklist the city provides, the amendment will further express purposes of the Land Development Code. And it states, for residential properties, the protection of these residential neighborhoods for incompatible land use is a primary concern. However, it's recognized the introduction of mixed land use, limited detail. It's all great. But to me, it changes the character and nature of the area back there next to the library. In addition to that, we're going to sell this land to this guy who's had a LLC for 4 months for $887 and some odd thousand. And I'm doing the math on the property appraisers, and it looks like we could probably get $1.5 million for that. At fair market value, we're losing 200 grand on this sale. I don't even know why we're going to sell this land to a developer to put 2 townhomes in. So I really wish you would instruct the city manager not to go forward with this agreement. I think that pretty much covers what I got to say.
The change, you wanted it from not TCCN? I didn't write it down.
Well, there are a couple of options, but it's also, it's not in the CRA, right? This land's outside of it, and it was brought forth to us at the planning board meeting, and I missed it. But you have town commercial, town center commercial residential, town center residential. You have R2, which it is now. Mm-hmm. And I think the one that protects the neighborhood the best is town center residential for just that plot, which is R2 now. Still allows options. You probably still would want to keep State Street open, but 75 days, leave State Street closed, Bruce. Just let the next guy.
Who's happening to State Street?
Well, if this agreement goes through, State Street gets opened.
Nope, nothing happens to State Street.
Well, I have a petition from 2012.
State Street's already been, you're thinking, school.
School Street. Thank you for correcting me, I apologize. Yeah, nothing's gonna happen with School Street, but I have a petition, 29 signatures, and there's 26 homes on Arlington, and everyone signed it from 5 years ago, saying we want School Street left as it is or turned into a conservation area. I've never submitted the petition. If it's of a value, I'll regurgitate it and bring it forth and put it in the public record, but right now I don't think it's the time. But we all on Arlington don't want State Street opened up.
School Street.
School Street. I'm done, bye.
Next, yep.
Dave Tilkey, 505 Arlington Avenue East. Dale kind of threw me for a loop there, speaking now to these items. I mean, are we going to be able to speak to items
It's not
1
a public hearing.
and 11 when they are brought forth? Or do we have to do all of our comments now?
Yeah, that's what, yeah, because it is not a public hearing. It will be at some point.
So we have to go through all this now, even on item 11, which could be an hour from now. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, do I get 10 minutes, 5 for each item?
Just, yeah.
All right. Item 1, which is changing the zoning on that to TCCN. I asked the question, number 1, how can you, sitting as the CRA, take action on a piece of property that's not within the CRA and not within the town center area? Would that not be a city council function? And my second question is, if the move is to make this piece of property TCCN, how can you apply a town center code designation to a piece of property that is not in the town center? Would this piece of property would the boundaries of the town center, of the CRA either need to be CRD, either need to be adjusted to bring this lot in, or do you need to stay with zoning regulations that are for the rest of the city and not town center designations? So there's my first question.
Okay.
Because in 3.6.1 of the comp plan, it states that these designations, the TC designations, are for lands that are designated in the comp plan as within the CRD. That's in the comp plan. Some questions about, going with the TCCN zoning. The staff report says rezoning will sufficiently safeguard the integrity and character of the neighborhood. And I asked that question, well, how can putting a town center commercial designation on this piece of property where it abuts R2, there's no transition there, there's no transitional lots, it abuts directly up against the residential neighborhood. How does that safeguard anything? That area of the town center is very unique in that those are the only lots that are on the south side of St. Pete Drive, that whole area right there. Everything else within the town center is buffered by, at a minimum, St. Pete Drive. On the north side of St. Pete Drive, you have much of the town center designation. The south side of St. Pete Drive pretty much is all R3 down through there. So there's a buffer between the town center and the residential areas to the south. This is the only area that does come south of St. Pete Drive and does butt up against R2 zoning. So it's very unique down there. You know, I have many questions, you know, can it stay R2? And then just can a variance be granted, or can it just stay R2 and let them put single-family homes there if somebody wants to do that? My big concern, if you go TCCN, now I know item 11 is dealing with a development agreement, but there's no telling whether that development agreement will ever come to fruition. There's no telling, it'll be a 5-year agreement. There's no telling that that will ever happen. But we will be living with that TCCN designation forever. Now, y'all sit here and you know, say, well, we're gonna go development agreement. Those are only gonna be duplexes down there at that south end. However, if it doesn't happen, future councils may have different ideas. The land carries the TCCN designation. It could go commercial all the way down through there, all the way back up to the backyards of the homes on Arlington that are zoned R2. So changing the zoning on that without stipulations that, again, I don't understand why it would go TCCN. Why would you bring commercial all the way down there? TCR is one of the options, as Dale mentioned. All right, I guess that's all I've got on item 1.
Okay.
I don't know if you wanted to, I guess you'll discuss that when you get into item 1.
Yeah. Did you have something about 11?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
School Street is my main concern on item 11. Councilmember McGee at a hearing, I guess 2 weeks ago or so about Oldsmar Cares, I'm quoting you, you said, "This is zoned for office. It doesn't necessarily need any access to a residential street." I guess I would make the same comment here. If this is going to be zoned town center, you know, commercial neighborhood, why do they need any access to a residential street? Let their access remain up within the business district. School Street's not even platted up through there. School Street was vacated many years ago.
Not that part.
School Street only exists from Arlington north to the first lot. From there up to St. Pete Drive, School Street does not exist anymore and would have to be replatted. And I guess that acreage would come out of the acreage available for development up there. So the density calcs, I guess, in the developer's proposal, I believe are way off because they're using the gross acreage and without pulling School Street out of their acreage. The intersection at Arlington and School Street would be, I don't even know if it's buildable. The DOT has the 30-foot perpetual easement goes down through there for the DOT ditch. So all of that ditch, all of north side of Arlington drains into there. There's a 42-inch pipe drains directly into that ditch, and then the huge pond outfall drains into that ditch. The pipe under Arlington was put in back around 1991, 1990, I would guess. I'm not sure how that was ever sized because it's of the entire drainage system that leads up to there. That's the smallest pipe in the system, which is a little backwards. So I'm assuming that would all have to be replaced. If a developer is going to have to pay for it all, I guess that's fine, but everybody should be aware, and it would all need DOT approval because that's all a DOT, they've got an easement through there. I guess that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks.
I want to make an explanation, and then I want to make a comment, if you don't mind.
I don't want to turn this into a dialogue back and forth.
That's
but go
the problem. The mayor has the opportunity and the right to run the council the way he wants in the open forums and in the citizens open. I never did it this way, which didn't make it right or wrong. But this is why I always say, if you're going to have an item on the agenda, let the people talk about the item on the agenda.
And I'll just remind you that I changed the way we handled this. We used to say that you're not allowed to address anything that's on the agenda fairly recently. And so we opted to have them allowed to address anything that's on the agenda.
We
unless
didn't
it's a
opt to
public-
do that. You opted to do that.
I think that's better than the way it was.
I don't, because we can't have a dialogue up here.
But this is good for
We
our
can't have a
discussion.
dialogue up here
Okay.
between him and us, because this is an open forum. This is just for the citizens' open forum. Now, when we have the agenda item, that's for the and Mayor, I apologize, but that's just how I feel. That's when you have the dialogue. I won't say any more.
And, you know, I reserve the right and have done it before to allow people to speak at those particular times. So that's still my decision and my call.
I just said that, didn't I?
Yeah. So don't chastise me for the way that I run the meeting.
I'm challenging you.
Okay, well,
I didn't
good.
chastise you.
Thank you. Next. Yep. We're on this side if you want to go. It doesn't matter. Go ahead.
I'm going to change the total pace of this meeting. My name is Shari Moscardini, and I live at 1403 North Bayshore Drive, Safety Harbor, Florida.
Okay.
Not here to complain. I am here as a representative of the Maddie Williams Neighbor to Family Center, and to thank you so much for your generous support over the years in our efforts to improve the lives of some of the city's youngest and most disadvantaged citizens, and also your youngest constituents. And I'm talking about the kids we serve in our after-school and summer camp programs, the kids from Oldsmar. One of the things that we would really like to happen this year is for you to see firsthand the impact that you guys and the city are making on the lives of these young people. And to that end, we are inviting you all should have one of these beautiful little flyers, to a family night, which is being held at Bayside Community Church. That's to allow room for lots of things that are going to be going on. There are going to be displays about that show the different work the kids have been doing, from science experiments to book club to math games to learning African dancing and taking cooking classes, and much more. There are rumors of a talent show, and there will be food there. But I've been working at the Maddie Williams Center for 2 years, and one of the first things I did when I came to work there, one of the first events I went to was the family night, and I was so impressed. And I looked around and I said, well, where are all the people who are making this possible? And that's you all. You need to see this. So I really, really hope that you will come, and your support, we want you to know what a really big difference your support is making in the lives of these young people. Awesome. So we're inviting you to come, and I hope to see you there.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
And can this just get added to our calendars, just so we know that it's on there? Because sometimes we leave and we forget when it is, so. Yeah, Suda?
Mayor, council, staff, Sudiantis Cologne, 402 Arlington Avenue East. We live alongside the ditch opposite, I guess, of what will be considered School Street. So I have several questions for you to consider as you're looking into this. First of all, what will this do to our property, our side of the ditch? Closing over what's on the other side, what type of things will happen? So I'm hoping that's going to be reviewed as to the result of these kind of things. I assume the elevation will be raised, and I don't think anybody's talked about the elevation. If townhomes go in there, most likely We will be raising it up, which means we'll be on the back side of that. So drainage and things like that off of a street that we have finally gotten to the point where over the years have done everything that we need to not have to canoe out, which I think was done many years ago. So please look into the elevation and the results of that if this is considered. Also, what is the street future? If we put, say, an extra 100 cars coming and going, is this going to consider widening the street? Changing what our street is, changing what our neighborhood will be. So we hope that is not where this will take us. And finally, as still your arts advocator for the city of Oldsmar, what will this do for the community center that we had hoped and been promised and worked towards maybe eventually being there on that property? So please consider all of those things carefully for us. I hope that we choose a different direction. I hope council can see to keeping our community the way it is in that area, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suda.
Anybody else on this side of the room like to address the council? Anybody on this side of the room like to address the council? All right. We'll close the citizens open forum. I've got my mayor's minute here. I'll do that real quickly. A recap of a couple of things. We Mean Business, the monthly visit, the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce and the city manager and myself. For June, we visited the Oldsmar Flea Market. AMC Woodlands Square 20, which was very interesting. A little behind the scenes of a movie theater was kind of fun. Growth Management Group, and also the Burger Joint, which is right there by Buffalo Wild Wings. So I had a peanut butter hamburger. It was a little weird, but
Sounds delicious.
it tasted good, but my brain was just processing it, saying something's not right. So Oldsmar Disc Golf Course ribbon cutting. Great time attending the official ribbon cutting ceremony at the grand opening of the Oldsmar Disc Golf Course on the 24th at Sheffield Park. Tried to tee off a few times using my arms. I should pre-read these before I actually read them in public. Not a club, free beginners, because I threw it right in the creek twice.
The pressure was off the rest of us.
The pressure was off. First one right into the creek. So Oldsmar Public Library offering beginner disc golf kits for a 7-day checkout. And I can't remember how long that pro guy threw. Do you remember, Felicia, how far? He threw from the pro things and almost putted at the base of the basket.
270 was the first part that we were looking at.
But that's from where we threw, right? And then he threw from even further. Is that what it is? Also, this was great. Our second annual Project Pop Drop. Thanks to everyone who donated to Project Pop Drop benefiting Oldsmar Cares. Here are the final charitable results. $660 in cash, $360 in Walmart gift cards, $700 in Walmart grant, thanks to Josh, $200 in toiletries and 1,000 pounds of food, tons of clothing, and a big shout out to Sharon Edwards for spearheading this second annual event. Upcoming events and announcements. She's in the room tonight. Congratulations to Oldsmar CPO Cindy Kakalo for receiving the Eastlake Oldsmar Rotary's Deputy of the Year Award. I think it's pretty obvious which one is Cindy in the back. Congratulations, that's great. Blood drive, reminder that the city blood drive is this Thursday, the 20th, from 12:15 to 3 at City Hall. Donors will receive health screening and free Tervis tumblers. Oldsmar represented at the BMX Worlds, Oldsmar BMX and the city staff in partnership with Visit St. Pete Clearwater, hosting a vendor tent in Rock Hill, South Carolina for the 2017 BMX World Championships at the end of July. So we're going up there to help out, but to also to learn so that we can potentially bring an event of that size back to the city of Oldsmar. This was a great one. Big thank you to Deb Pauley and everybody in the clerk's office that worked on this. The city was announced as one of only 4 city winners across the state for the Florida League of Cities 9th Annual Municipal Achievement Award. Oldsmar won the City Spirit Award for our 2016 Centennial Celebration. This coveted award will be presented informally to Oldsmar at the Florida League of Cities Annual Conference, and a formal presentation will be held here at a city council meeting in September. So congratulations to Deb and Dan and everybody for all their work on on the Centennial. It really was a collective effort, and I think Sharon told me that the Florida League of Cities is celebrating 100 years, and they're going to kind of use ours as a template as to how to get people involved. And I mean, I think it really was a community chamber and city effort. So again, congratulations to everybody. It was hard work. So that wraps up the mayor's minute. Having said that, we will step into the Community Redevelopment Agency, where we have one item, and that is to authorize the city attorney to prepare an ordinance rezoning vacant lot east of the library from residential single-family district R2 to town center commercial neighborhood TCCN. And is that Marie going to give us a presentation?
She is, yes.
Ms. Delphine? And I'm sure you were listening to some of the comments that were made, and hopefully.
And I'll try to address them.
Thank you.
I'm Marie Daphne's Planning and Redevelopment Director. I'm going to give you a short presentation PowerPoint. So it's a rezoning from R2 residential single family to TCC and town center commercial neighborhood. Where's mine? Got it. It's working tonight.
Up here.
Displays aren't
Have anything?
showing.
No? Right here on the screen.
Nothing. We've been having
Guys,
problems.
we could see it from the side, though,
Okay.
I think.
Okay, this parcel is city-owned. It's 0.92 acres. It's in the center of a block. It's bounded by St. Pete Drive, State Street, Dartmouth Avenue, and Arlington Avenue. It's east of the library site and west of the FDOT pond site. This is looking east from the library parking lot, looking northeast from the library parking lot.
There we go.
Got it. Yeah. Great presentation.
The surrounding area, there's Oldsmar Library to the west. Oh, did I go ahead here? Whoops, sorry. Vacant area, it's city-owned land to the north, FDOT pond to the east, and single-family homes to the south. The city owns all the property from the library to State Street and St. Pete Drive, and so it's approximately 7 acres. This piece, 0.92 acres, is also owned by the city, but it's, R2 zoning. So staff felt that it was more appropriate to have the same kind of zoning designation on this property to kind of fold it in, because that's a wedge is kind of like hanging out there, and it's only would permit single family. So TCCN permits town center, permits mixed use, retail uses, townhomes, but the R2 only permits single family homes. So in order to develop that site, it would be kind of out there with no access to a street or anything. So we would fold it into the city-owned property, and it made more sense to zone it TCCN. If residential development did not occur on a portion of the site, you could have a mixed use, which would be more intense. You could have retail uses, office uses, et cetera, which I think the traffic would be more intense. So the R2, as I said, permits single-family homes. TCCN permits retail, office, civic, mixed-use parking lots, and it would permit up to 4 stories. ISR of 0.80 and FAR of 1, and there's architectural standards that would apply. So the land use of residential urban, which the R2 is, permits 7.5 units per acre, but the or underlying land use from the county is 10 units per acre. So they could potentially go up to 10 units.
And you said how big, not 0.9 acres? Is that what you said?
0.92.
0.92.
So it's less than an acre. So staff is recommending that the city council authorize the city attorney to prepare an ordinance to rezone a single lot of city-owned property adjacent to the Oldsmar Library site from R2 to TCCN. I think it's important to know that because it's city-owned property, if it was owned by, private property owner, we wouldn't necessarily be, changing it to TCCN unless there was some kind of comprehensive development that was going to occur. But it's all under this, the city owns all the property from the library to St. Pete and State Street.
Mm-hmm.
So Dave's question around TCCN versus TCR? GCCR, can you address his question around that?
Well, TCR, it wouldn't really be a benefit because you would not be permitted to have townhome developments. And that's, usually what you'd have in a TCCN. So, and this is kind of, it's not fronting on Arlington, it's right in the middle of that parcel. So, it makes more sense to have TCCN as opposed to
What's the
CCR.
designation of the townhomes we just did the groundbreaking on, right there at St. Pete Drive and Park?
In part?
Town center, commercial neighborhood,
Same thing,
same
same
thing, yeah.
exact zoning, okay.
And also, if it was just residential here, that would be one thing, but they could potentially also have a mixed use, like the townhomes on Washington. You could have like live work, or you could have something else, which would be more intense than what's proposed in the development agreement that's on item 11, I believe. So.
Beaverland?
On this one, I have nothing to
Okay.
say.
I have a question. Is it in the CRA? Because it doesn't
No,
look
it is
like-
not in the CRA.
So how does the CRA address it?
It's not, it's just a designation. You can have that town center commercial neighborhood outside the CRA. It's just not going to have the same benefits as that.
But in the process for changing the zoning outside the CRA, different from within?
No, the process is the same as
Yeah.
you're rezoning one lot, one piece of property, I mean, if it moves forward. And I think the primary reason is to have the same zoning designation for the entire parcel. If you were to zone it like TCR, that was one of the things that was mentioned. In my opinion, that'd be like spot zoning. You'd have one lot, zone TCR, nothing around it is zone TCR. So here, we do happen, I mean, everybody knows, we're the owner, we're not gonna be the developer. But, so, think of it as most property owners would, that you own approximately 7 acres, 6 of it is in one zoning designation, and then you have this one corner that's a different zoning designation. It's kind of like that, there's no logic to that.
Yeah.
I never took any urban planning classes. I just had on-the-job training. But to me, it's kind of like urban planning 101. You own 7 acres, why would you have less than 1 acre in a different zoning designation?
We're going to address something else tonight, the same thing.
I think it should all have the same zoning designation. That's what I see as the primary impetus and reason is it should all have the same zoning designation. It just makes sense, I think.
Well, see, what we're going to address tonight is another item on here where everything is zoned around it. And then there's two lots on Forest
Right.
Lakes Boulevard that,
Well, I just assumed because it was not in the CRA that it wouldn't show up on the agenda as a CRA item. So-
Well,
But that's good for today.
tonight, this item is to authorize the city attorney to prepare an ordinance, which the CRA certainly has the right to ask the city attorney to do that, I believe.
I have a question, I guess, along the lines of Councilmember Seidel's, I guess, that, and maybe I misunderstood. Well, 2 questions. One is, if this was the community center site, which I know at one time it was, and I think it's still something that the city council is very interested in. Don't know exactly where it might be. There've been several different places. What would the zoning have to be for us to do that? Would that R2 have to be changed to accommodate that?
Well,
To accommodate it.
this would be going with the townhome development.
No, I understand it, but let's just say hypothetically.
wasn't a townhome.
Let's just say hypothetically, this project didn't
Well, that
exist.
makes sense too, to have, TCCN, because it's still city-owned property. Only a portion is going to be townhomes, the balance is going to remain.
No, my question is if we were going to put a community center there, would we still have to change the R2 to TCCN?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I think, I don't have a magic crystal ball, but I would think with the community center, you can have a lot of traffic too that, would be part of that. So that answers that question about the community center or any other similar type use. What about, I heard the architectural standards, because it's not in the CRA, but they don't have to follow the design standards for the CRA, correct?
Well, it would be a development agreement for
That would be
that.
part of the development agreement that would address
And
it.
it's similar to what we did for Park Avenue Plaza. Actually, there was two zoning, one was partly in the CRA, one was not, but the CRA architectural standards took precedence over the development of that project.
I'm sorry, did you want to say something?
No, I don't have any more questions for this particular.
The, well, I really don't have a problem with this one, but when the other thing comes up, then I'll say what I gotta say.
Okay. And this is, just for everybody that's here, this is just one step of many that has to be involved. Just because we're preparing an ordinance doesn't mean we're approving the ordinance. Is that correct?
That's correct.
It would have 2 readings and 2 public hearings.
So that would be the time for the dialogue back and forth. And
Yes.
I don't know, did you mention the planning board recommendation?
Oh, excuse me, they voted 4-0 in favor of the rezoning to TCCN.
Okay. Any other questions of staff?
Thank you, Marie.
No. Thank you. Any discussion from council? I need a motion.
So moved.
Second? Second. For discussion purposes. Any other discussion on?
No, I mean, either way, if we're putting a community center there, we're gonna have to change it to do that. I don't see this as being
Any
the issue.
different? Yeah. Yeah, I have other questions. I'll wait till the development
Okay.
agreement, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes, I didn't hear. Is that- Okay. 5-0, thank you. Now we'll get back into the city council, the consent docket. We have a couple of items. Approve the minutes of the April 18th, 2017 city council meeting, approve payment to legal counsel, and then authorize the city manager to contract with Lynn Inliner LLC for sanitary sewer lining under City of Plantation contract. And then the final item is approve the tentative agenda of August 1st, 2017. There was a typo on the name of the company. It is Inliner, not Incliner, so I need a motion. If nobody wishes to pull anything, got a motion? Need a second? Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it passes 5-0, thank you. City of Oldsmar, a couple presentations. Presentation of the Employee Service Award, and that will be handled by our city manager, Mr. Bruce Haddock.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very pleased this evening to present the service award to Leonard Newby.
The Ohio State.
So you brought a guest with you tonight? Someone came with you?
My wife, Melinda.
And I bet she wanted to come up here for the presentation, didn't she?
Sure she did.
Yeah, I thought she might. But
Yes.
maybe, I'm not sure. We'll get her in the picture maybe later
Yeah.
on. Okay. Okay, well, first, there's a check that goes along with it.
Up here.
Aren't you sorry you didn't come up?
So this service award in recognition for 10 years of service to the city of Oldsmar presented to Leonard Newby, 2007 to 2017. You can go ahead and take that also. I know some of your coworkers are here this evening also. And when I make these presentations, I kind of like to, add a little flavor to it and just talk about maybe some of the work that you do. And if I have any stories of my own, occasionally I like to share those also. And I don't know if I ever shared this with you or not about, I've never had any problem remembering your name. Did I ever share that story with you?
I don't think so.
I didn't think so either, but I'm going to tonight. So when you started work here 10 years ago, and this was the first time you and I met, and you introduced yourself, and you said, I'm Leonard Newby. I don't think I said anything, but immediately I thought to myself, well, of course you're a newbie, you just started. What can I say? It's just the way my mind works. It's a handicap. But anyhow, I never had a problem remembering your name after that for 10 years, Leonard Newby. Okay, so I know that you work in leisure services and recreation at the Cypress Forest Recreation Center. So what do you do there?
I'm the Recreation Center Coordinator and in charge of programs we have there, the summer camp program which we have going on now. We have a big field trip tomorrow morning to Mosey with the kids, so it should be a lot of fun.
And how many kids are going to Mosey tomorrow? Just a rough idea.
Probably about 65.
Oh, my God.
You know, if I didn't have some other appointments, I'd see if I could go with you, but I won't be able to make it tomorrow. But I know y'all will have fun.
Yes, we will. We do every year. We go to Mosey every year. That's just one of the many field trips that we take with the kids on summer camp.
And you have some other jobs or assignments related to some things like the softball leagues or things like that. And
Yeah, I'm in charge of the men's softball league that we have out at Canal Park, or it was the Oldsmar Sports Complex now, right?
Yeah.
So we have that. We'll be starting our softball season on August 22nd, and that'll be our fall season.
right after that summer program with 70 kids is over is when it starts, something like that, right?
Yeah, we usually get a week or two break between summer camp and softball, so to kind of recover.
Yeah, well, I know you have some other jobs also, but we got to keep the program moving along. So I just want to say that we appreciate the work that you do, Leonard. We're happy that tonight we can recognize you on your 10th anniversary and just take a few moments to let you know your work is appreciated and to say thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Not really. I mean, my wife and I, we will be celebrating our 15th wedding anniversary here on the 20th, which will be Thursday. So it's been a busy week.
Nice.
Like I say, we took kids to the golf driving range today, Mosey tomorrow, and then another group of kids to the golf driving range on Thursday. Friday, we have our Olympic Day, our second Olympic Day at the rec center with the kids. So we stay busy. It's a busy week.
Well, congratulations on your anniversary, and I just have a feeling you're going to go someplace really nice on for your anniversary. Yeah. Okay, picture.
Thanks for taking care of us.
Yes,
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, the mayor is.
And he did it again.
Congratulations.
Our next item is our presentation of the Council Manager Award, and that will be done by Councilmember McGee.
So tonight I will be presenting the award to Mark Brill. So Mark, if you and your lovely wife would like to come up. So this is the Council Manager Award of Recognition presented to Mark Brill for July 2017. I'm going to hand that to you. So before coming to Florida, Mark lived in Pittsburgh. He served in the Army from 1970 to 1971 when he was honorably discharged, and he was awarded a Bronze Star and Purple Heart for his service in Vietnam. He began his career in the United States Postal Service in Pittsburgh in 1975. He received a transfer to the Tampa Post Office in 1986. Very popular year for Bruce and I.
You bet.
And settled in Oldsmar with his wife, Eileen, in August 1986. They have a daughter, Megan, who graduated from the University of Florida and now lives in North Carolina working as a mechanical engineer. Mark retired from the post office in 2012 after nearly 38 years of service. While living in Forest Lakes, Mark served on the Homeowners Association board for approximately 8 years, 4 of which as president. Mark was appointed to Oldsmar's Board of Adjustment in 1996 and is still currently serving now as the chairman. He was appointed to the Veterans Advisory Board since its inception in 2008 and is currently serving as the vice chairman. Mark was instrumental in getting the city of Oldsmar to be recognized as a Purple Heart City in 2014, and is working with Leisure Services to obtain a Purple Heart monument to be erected in Veterans Park, hopefully sometime in 2018 or 19. He is a member of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, the JFK chapter of 1963, Dunedin, Florida, and he's currently serving as the adjutant. He is also a member of the Dunedin Purple Heart Day Planning Committee and Congressman Gus Bilirakis' Veterans Advisory Committee. He's since retired. Mark has enjoyed spending time with his wife, who is also retired. They enjoy fishing, bowling, and adventures with their car club. It was an honor for me to be able to select you for the award this evening, and not a surprise that multiple people in the room tonight, once they knew that you were the award recipient, said that was a great choice. You're very well respected in the community. More specifically, all of the work that you recently did on our Memorial Day ceremony. I think you had a tough job. It's not always easy to do civil service, and you volunteer your time, and not just for that ceremony, but all of the years of service that you've given back to the city of Oldsmar. We greatly appreciate everything that you do here, and it's a pleasure to award and recognize you this evening. So thank you very much.
Oh. Congratulations.
He's a very humble guy.
Just like the rest of us.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mark.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, sir.
Next is the presentation of the Homer Brunson Ward Schreckengoss Award. We may have a video, I'm not sure, and I will be doing this.
The Homer Brunson Award, Schreckengoss Award, was instituted in 1991, and what it was for, it was for one of our workers here in the city that was chosen by their peers to win the Ward Schreckengoss Homer Brunson Award. And what the award is, it serves two purposes. One, to recognize an outstanding worker here that works for the city of Oldsmar. And the other, what it serves is that Ward Schreckengoss and Homer Brunson were both council members here in the city of Oldsmar. Ward Schreckengoss served as mayor for 16 years. His last year on the council serving was 1970. I had the privilege of serving with him on his last year. And Homer Brunson served 11 years as a council member and 1 year as a mayor. And this serves two purposes: to honor Ward Schreckengoss and Homer Brunson, and to honor one of the incredible workers we have in the city of Oldsmar.
And if I could get Wesley Hernandez to come up. As she's known in the biz, Wes. When I got here, I was asking Bruce, I said, where is she? Over there by her parents. I'm like, oh, because she's not in her normal city, the way I'm used to seeing you. So this is a great honor to be able to present this. There's a nomination in the nominating committee, and they write a reason, and I think this is pretty neat. This was written by a new employee for the city, and they say, I recognize that I'm new to the city, but within my time, I have witnessed exceptional dedication and helpfulness from my coworker, Wes Hernandez. Wes works daily to update, troubleshoot, and manage our GIS system. This is a valuable system that documents our infrastructure and more. Many cities do not apply the time and management needed toward updating and monitoring their system, and it is to the detriment of the community as well as the municipality. Having recognized that, Wes is dedicated to the data encompassing integrity at every step. While Wes works closely with our IT department in the GIS mapping for our community, she has also been an adroit employee and reflects her knowledge and skill daily with all of our staff in our community. She has worked very closely with Public Works and Leisure Services to train and educate our new staff. All the while, she acts as an on-site IT ninja to the Public Works staff and guides the office through any headaches, getting us up to speed on any computer challenges. As a new employee coming into the city, Wes has been a great assistance to me. She's consistent in her concern of making sure that I have the resources to be successful, although she holds an entirely different job title as mine. This has not distracted her from approaching me to make sure that I know how to handle the daily tasks. She has made sure that I am trained in where to find data and that I need to do my job successfully. And she shared the process of the city so that I do not fail. She has been the human guidebook to success. West extends her service outside of the walls of her office as well. Whenever a citizen needs assistance in learning where our infrastructure is located, she is friendly and informative in offering her assistance to the community. She points the citizens in the right direction so they know the steps involved and what to expect in the project cycle. She goes above and beyond the scope of GIS technician, extending customer service across the board. Thank you, Wes. So congratulations. We'll bring them up in a minute, but here's a check for you.
Thank you.
And your plaque, I'll go ahead and read it. The Homer Brunson Ward Schreckengoss Governmental Award presented to Wesley Hernandez for her outstanding service, dedication, and leadership to the City of Oldsmar 2017 second quarter. Congratulations. To use it, you're so busy, but you get an extra day off too, so yeah, how about that? Would you like to say a few words and bring up your family?
Yes, please. I would like to thank Cheryl Wagner, who wrote that lovely nomination that you heard, and also Michael Hurley, part of our IT staff, who was my mentor here. He took me under his wing and taught me everything about mapping and cartography and how to be a good employee. And also our Public Works staff and our IT staff that really just took me into their world and just really welcomed me here at the city. It's been a great joy to work here. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, you guys, come on. You have to take a picture, I'm sorry.
I assume they have names besides mother and father?
Well, that's what I call them.
Oh, okay. And that's what we'll call them.
Every
That's
time,
mom and dad.
that's that.
I'm winging it there. Congratulations. We're blessed to have your daughter with us. So, here.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, we got to move to the middle. We got to be in front of the seal.
City seal.
Get her out of the way.
And I will say this, you can never go up there or around to where she is if she's not smiling the way she is.
Always smiling. It could be pouring down rain. She's smiling. Congratulations. Mom and Dad. All right. Our next is consider the reappointment of Jerry Walters to the Board of Adjustments. This one's a little sketchy, I think.
You got the look.
I did get the look. Oh, he's got a weapon too, so.
Have you ever seen Walter on that guy, the comedians, who does, he sits on a thing and he's got a puppet with him?
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Jeff.
That's the look. Oh. Well, we thank you. This is a reappointment, not always necessary that you come. I think we all know who you are, but we definitely want to extend a big thank you for what you do. The Board of Adjustments is, I believe, didn't you serve on it, Eric? Did you serve on the Board of Adjustments?
Board of Adjustments, yes, sir.
Yeah, so not always well-liked sometimes on the Board of Adjustments, but
Were you saying that? Because
Feel
is that why
free
you
to
asked me if I
stay.
served them? Wow.
you are quick. You are quick. But at any rate, so we do want to thank you. You got anything you want to say or ask us, or?
Not in particular. It's just the idea of this. I started back in '83 serving on committees and all kinds of boards and stuff, and even I was on
The city council.
city council when
when our city manager was appointed.
Oh,
So I
wow.
was part of that, but this is.
One of the best
this is great.
decisions you ever made.
We're still waiting to see how it turns out.
I don't know if I want to touch that one.
He's leaving.
We have a picture of the council up there when Jerry's sitting there, and if Bruce and I want a good laugh, we always look at that picture.
That's well appreciated, thank you. I have nothing else that I would like to bring up. My wife is waiting for me downstairs.
Oh, so move it along, is that what you're saying?
Move it, Mayor. You guys like to talk.
I'm on my way.
No, that's good, but thank you, and I know you do serve on many boards, because we call your name every time at the volunteer dinner several times, so thank you very much for your interest in the city and making a difference, so I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. 5-0. Go see your wife. Go see your wife.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, consider the reappointment to the planning board, Bernie Carnaval, Bob Harvey, and Ross Roundhouse. I believe Ross is not able to make it. Oh, sorry. You're buzzing back from Orlando or something? So at any rate, yeah, if you guys would come up, I think, is everybody here?
Yeah.
Oh, there they are. And again, we thank you for not only taking your time tonight to come and be a part of this and for reappointment, but another one, the planning board is a little bit of a tough board as well. So we appreciate your interest in doing what's right for the city. And so with that, we definitely thank you. I don't know if anybody has any questions of them. Yeah.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And we promise the check's on its way.
Yeah.
Anytime.
We doubled it. Twice, you get double nothing.
City moves
You
me.
get a raise. with your reappointment.
You still only get one dinner, but yeah. So. But thank you so much.
A motion to approve?
Yep, I need a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. 5-0.
gentlemen.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you. Ooh, big one. Mr. City Attorney, what you got?
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
All right, that was quick.
Yep.
City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 11, authorize the city manager to negotiate a development agreement for construction of 52 townhomes on St. Petersburg Drive East. I'd like to ask Marie Dauphiné, our Planning and Redevelopment Director, to present the item.
You're up, Marie.
And we could mention that Mr. Harvey, next year, which would be part of his new term that he was just appointed to, next year would celebrate 30 years on the planning board for the city of Oldsmar.
What did you get?
I cheered him up, didn't I?
When do you sleep through those meetings?
Yeah. He gets the big plaque next year. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, this is the Eastern Meridian Property Group Development Agreement request. The property is located south of St. Pete Drive, east of the library site, and north of Arlington. And as previously stated, the city owns approximately 7 acres adjacent to the city library. The city had purchased the properties with the intent of redeveloping them with residential and mixed-use development. So the request before you tonight is for a 52 residential townhome development on a portion of the 7-acre parcel owned by the city. Salient points of the development agreement will include access and maintenance easements required for public utilities, a requirement to construct School Street from St. Pete Drive to Arlington Avenue. Architectural will be consistent with the town center regulations. The developer will purchase the property for $877,182. The developer will be required to buy into the city's stormwater system, and the development agreement is valid for 5 years. So staff is recommending that the City Council authorize staff to proceed to negotiate a development agreement with Eastern Meridian Group for a townhome development.
Thank you. I'm sure there's some questions. I'll start with you, Mr. Bieberlin.
Okay, thank you. This is unimportant, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm the guy that talked the guy that owned the land to sell it to the city, because he said he wouldn't sell anything to this city under any circumstances. And I talked to him for a long time, and he was in Walmart one time, and he finally come up to me and said, okay, because of you, if the city wants it, I'll sell it to him. I came with Bruce. I said, do we want it? And he said, yes, we want it. So that's how we got that piece of land. And I would like to have the piece of land stay the way it is forever, but it belongs to the city, and the city needs to construct it in a proper way that where the city will benefit from it. Now, other than that, I don't see, well, I got a couple, I think to build the project's fine. I have a couple, I don't understand School Street being opened. That makes absolutely no sense to me because it doesn't go anywhere except to Arlington. And all the other part of it, I think the land across the street on School Street was donated to the city. Am I right or wrong, next to the ditch? Well, I know who donated it.
That one lot on Arlington, it could have been, yeah, I think maybe it was.
Well, I know who donated it. Yeah, it was donated. So I don't see any reason to open up School Street. In fact, if it comes down to that, if the council decides to do it that way, I will probably vote against this because I don't see any need of School Street being. It's just a little tiny piece of land. I don't know what else we could do with it.
Can I, along that lines, Jerry, if I may, Marie, was it staff who recommended that, or was that at the request of the developer?
Staff recommended that.
Okay.
I don't know why the developer would even want that.
Yeah, it's only extra expense. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, also, you've got 52 townhomes, and there's only one way in and one way out. So really, to have School Street, go to Arlington.
Well, that would be their problem, not our problem. Okay, now, with that said, I cannot support it with School Street being open because I don't see any sense of that. And Bruce and Marie, I'm gonna need some help on this one. We received a letter, which the letter writer, I put a lot of confidence in their judgment. If this developer, now we can handle this later, I think. If this developer buys the land to develop it, I want to make sure he develops it and nobody else. Can we do that?
Probably could. Tonight, we don't even have a development agreement, it's just.
I understand that, but that'll be the next step. And we can handle that later, right?
Yes. I wouldn't recommend that, but I
Basically-
think that the reason for a development agreement is so the council and the city has a very great assurance of what's going to be built there.
Okay. We'll talk about that. I want it ironclad. That's just me. I'm just over here in a corner. That the architectural design of the buildings, I want to see it first.
Well, there's a placeholder. There'll be a placeholder in the development agreement that comes before council at a future date.
You know how
So
I
you'll
have to-
see a rendering of.
When I first got on council, back in the 70s, nobody cared. But when I got on council in 1990, developers would come in here and show us this beautiful picture, and I'd say, don't show me a damn Cadillac and build me a Volkswagen. And that's what they used to do. So if we have this development there, which I wish it would never be developed there, but it's going to be.
You just offended the vice mayor, by the way. He's got 4 Volkswagens, so you could have picked a different car.
Well, no, because one of the Volkswagens he's got is far more valuable than a stupid Cadillac.
Thank you. Now I feel better.
Wait a minute.
got one of the rarest Volkswagens in the world with
Councilman.
windows all the way around it.
Cleveland, I own a Cadillac, just.
Hey, else you want to? I drive a Chevy if you want to throw a shot there.
Anyway, no, I used to own a Chevrolet, nothing wrong with a Chevrolet. I'm gonna be tough on this. If I don't like the architectural designs, I'll vote against the whole thing. And if we decide that, and we probably will sooner or later, as we do with all of our development, we want it the best and not a piece of junk. So that's the, unless I think of something else, that's the two problems I have. I will vote against this if School Street stays in it to open it. And then we'll discuss the other things as we go along.
And before I move on to the next one, just on the School Street, can you address I guess maybe or Bruce can, what was said tonight, but that School Street was vacated, or only a portion of it was, or what? I know that was brought up tonight earlier.
So the portion that, there's a vacant lot on Arlington. If it had a number, it would be 501 Arlington Avenue. And that lot is owned by the city. Immediately.
That's the one that was donated.
By Babe Wright.
Immediately
Right.
west of that lot is School Street. It extends the length of that lot. The part north of that has been vacated, and that was vacated after the city acquired the adjoining properties.
When you say northeast, you're talking towards St. Pete Drive?
St. Petersburg Drive,
Okay.
yes, And the total acreage here, as Ms. Dauphiné mentioned, the city owns everything between Dartmouth and State Street. So those approximately 7 acres were acquired over a number of years from, as I recall, 6 different property owners. But several years ago, after we had acquired all of the property, we vacated School Street, where we owned the property on both sides, because I know the council's aware, when you vacate a public right-of-way, it goes to the adjacent property owners on each side of it. Well, we owned everything on both sides, so we vacated it. I mean, the reason this property was acquired over the years is it's, been in the CRA since the early 90s for the intent that it would be redeveloped. And because it's been vacated, we now have the opportunity to include that in a sale to a developer. If it was still a public street, you can't sell a public street. So that has some financial advantage. And the other advantage is then you have a contiguous parcel. At the time it was vacated, and even today, we don't really know what's going to be built there. So by removing the street, it gives you all the options available. You just have one piece. You don't have an existing street where you say, well, you got to build this on this side and this on the other side. So that's why all the rest of it was vacated a number of years ago. That was a long answer, wasn't it?
No, I think it was very helpful, because,
Yeah,
I mean,
very
that was definitely something that was brought up tonight. I didn't mean to cut you off, Jerry, if you were done, otherwise, Council.
Yeah, because it's going to be brought before us again.
Sure, absolutely. This is just step one, again,
Yeah.
of several, so.
We can handle all those.
Because it
other
may
concerns.
never happen, if they can't come to an agreement, so.
It may.
I have utmost confidence that our city manager and our city attorney have the best interest of the city in mind, so when they do these development agreements. Councilmember McGee?
I had a couple questions. One, so to John's email, the point of he didn't know the property was for sale. In this particular case, was it the developer approached us about the property?
The developer, well, he approached us about many city-owned properties, and this was one of them.
Okay, because I didn't know potentially we might be losing out on an even better opportunity because other home builders in our area, even local home builders, weren't aware that it was for sale. That just came up just because I was thinking about John's email tonight, and I wanted to bring that up because obviously he's done a really good job for
I
us.
think, in this process, I mean, one of the questions I would have would be, to your point, I realize this is simply authorizing the city manager to go and negotiate good faith, but the fact that this is being put out there, it also means that, we have a fiduciary responsibility to get the highest return that we can for the citizens. I would not be surprised if there are others who are attracted to it. So it's probably good to say that right up front, right now, that if we are approached, it would be our expectation that if it's a significant offer, that it changes things, obviously, in the agreement and the process.
And if I could, I don't mean to cut you off, but on the piggybacking on that, I think some of the thoughts, Bruce and I have talked about it, and, I think maybe we might see and I can't ever remember, what's the old trailer park, what's that development called?
Bayside Terrace?
Bayside Terrace.
I mean, I think that we feel is a very similar situation in that, again, if this moves forward, that, we do own the rest of the property all the way up to State Street, and that, hopefully that might spur additional development, along that property too, because that's commercial, correct? Along there?
That's all zone TCCN.
Okay, so, and I think it's similar to what our thought is about the property next door, is that, hopefully if we start that, it'll spur development along there. I mean, I think that was the intent originally with State Street and the Galleria and all that. So, I mean, yeah, to your point, it may either on that property or on other property. I know John Hughes owns a piece of property across the street, which, I've seen the site plan for that, is very nice. So it would, very compatible, so at any rate, sorry, I didn't mean
No,
to
it's
cut you off.
okay,
You
I just wanted to bring that up.
Yep.
I know this is still early on, but have you had any discussions around what the expected size of these townhouses would be and the price points?
The price points, no, but I believe on that rendering that was part of the staff report, it looked like they were 1,800 to 2,100 square feet.
Okay. So some of the audience's commentary, Dale mentioned, it being a 4-month-old LLC, and so I just wanted you to address that. I know that John Hughes does that very often too, where they create so what's the purpose of that, just so you can address it for his comment?
Well, I mean, we saw it with Wellington Estates, there was a developer that came in, but then once they started developing Wellington Estates, they created an LLC, and then there was a development agreement with that LLC. City manager probably can kind of
The city attorney
elaborate.
might want to respond to that. but-
It's basically a legal protection to
Right.
separate the ownership of certain properties from certain liabilities.
Yep.
So you just limit yourself.
I deal with that a lot with investors in real estate, and you've developed down in St. Pete, they want it named 123 Elm Street
Yeah.
LLC to separate it from everything
I
else.
just want to bring it up because the comment was kind of made towards it being like only established for 4 months, and I know we see that a lot here. To Dave's comment around the road access, like with the Oldsmar Cares project, obviously that is a business and charitable organization. I didn't feel there was a need to have an access through our residential area. I can see the point about not necessarily needing the street to go through. My concern would be, though, if there was only one way in or out and you have 52 townhomes, if there were an emergency or a fire or something of that nature, those people only have
Can I tell you
one
my
way to get
scenario?
in or out, yes.
I have 250 homes in my
Right.
neighborhood, and I have one way in and one way out. So, I mean, it's not ideal, but they couldn't get another access. They were trying to access, I think, on Lockheed Mart, and they couldn't. So it's definitely something that, I guess, if that happened, the fire department would look at that, or I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's
That's-
part of the review is,
Okay.
what are the public safety issues? What are service issues, like even, access for a garbage truck? So all those things would be part of the
I
review.
think the preserves only has one way in and one way out, and they got a bunch of, is it the preserves or the one next to it? Preserves. They got one way in and one way
Well,
out.
I'm not saying we're encouraging that for future development for
Right.
safety reasons, but, okay, yeah, thank you, Dean.
Dean O'Neill, Fire and EMS Chief, and actually I'm the person who made that comment about the one way in and one way out with School Street. Whenever we can, we like to have multiple avenues in and out, especially in a condensed area like that. When we do have large events and again, we're always planning for the worst case scenario. If I need to bring in 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 large apparatus for a large event, a fire that could be involving several units at a time, it's hard once we get those first couple of units in there and hoses on the ground that we're starting to stack people up. And so we're always looking for multiple ways in, just because of the way we lay out our hydrants and the way we like to gain access and egress into neighborhoods.
Well, the planning department can handle that with all the other parcels down State Street. When they're developed, they can put another,
Well, you're not really going to be deciding that tonight.
No.
yeah.
But I think that it was brought up tonight, so it's definitely worth discussion
Yes.
while they're here, so. I guess to that point too, I guess getting back to the community center, I assume that if that was a community center, it would be advantageous to have access from that side of the,
Well, for the residents.
for the residents, I mean, so it's it's kind of one of those.
Regardless of what goes there, it would be advantageous to have a second access.
Let me, to address yours comment, I really doubt that we'll ever have a community center there, because other councils is gonna have other ideas. Now, we've been saying a community center there 2 councils ago. I don't think there'll ever be a community center there.
Well, which is why we decided, I think, to move forward with a project that will bring some taxes into the city, so.
Right.
And the only other comment I would make is just, I know we've gotten an email too about someone that was kind of just strictly opposed to it, and I think it's important to remember, because we've had these discussions with our downtown development, that we need the residential density to support a downtown development. So I know all of us that live here in the city have been looking forward to having a downtown. We're revisiting those talks of creating one, and one of the important things that you would need is residential density in order to support that, not just offices and things of that nature, because you need people that are gonna live here and stay and go to dinner and not just go home after work. So I think it's a positive anytime we can bring more residences into the city, but I also think, of course, we appreciate concerns. I would be concerned of the same things if I lived right around there as well. The only other thing I wanted to bring up was Suda had brought up concerns about the ditch and the elevation raises. I don't know if you can comment on if there's any expected raise in elevation or at this point.
Well, we haven't even gone through site plan, and depending on the way they're constructed, I'm sure, Public Works is going to evaluate the site plan, so that's kind of down the road.
And I guess to that point, just like any development, having done drainage for so many years, that, they can't have an adverse impact to, to the.
Particular case, the Burbank drainage will take care of anything.
Yeah, so, anything else? Thank you.
Thank you, Murray.
Councilmember Seidel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To the same point, honestly, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I think you nailed it. I haven't believed ever since we started working on doing a downtown as a serious project, and we're back at visiting it again. I mean, we've made a lot of progress in terms of over the years acquiring the land, starting the process of, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. The big killer in that has been density. And where do we get the density? And that's why I don't believe it's ever been a smart move to put the community center over there. I don't think that makes any sense. I don't think it's in the best interest of the city. That land is best suited for using a development such as being proposed, whether it's by this developer or someone else, but it makes a lot of sense. I won't, personally, I don't think Schoolhouse Road needs to be there. I wouldn't support that, in part because there are so many developments that are around that they have a single point of entry and exit. And I recognize, with all due respect to the chief and others, that it certainly would be better. It'd be better for that development. I don't know that the neighborhood, it's kind of that dividing line, right? Let's keep that dividing line there. Keep people, as we're making big changes, going out to the main road. And I just think it's neater, it's cleaner. It also helps, in my opinion, protect kind of the integrity of the culture. I like it. Yeah, we want to do these things. We want to have a downtown. Let's steer it out to the main road and keep it out of the neighborhood so that those neighbors and just the whole area, not just the people on that street, but the whole area, that's the way we're designing this thing. And so, but there are other places. I mean, should the time come when we're finally in a position to do a community center, there are other places to have a community center. That's not the place to do it at. And so, essentially, I'm excited about this. I think this is good for the city in that format, because I think it will have an impact, as the mayor alluded to, on getting even more interest on us really having a downtown. Because people looking at that, they're looking around and going, where are the people, And so that's a nice addition. It's walkable. I think that's a nice, really benefit to the culture of the community, that we now have more people living, that it makes it more walkable. And so I think it's a good idea. I don't support the school street part. If that's what ultimately comes back, I hope it doesn't. Because I think we can make it work and still I don't know, maintain that integrity and that culture that we have in our neighborhoods that surround the area. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I would just make one comment on that, and I'll just bring it up because I have used this before, is in like West Park Village in West Chase. And Bruce and I had this conversation earlier, is selfishly, when we have a home, you know, we like our privacy, we like to be in our bubble, essentially. We don't necessarily want this new street coming through the townhouses, but we also don't want to discourage a connected city where neighbors know each other, you know, that we're kind of in our own little worlds. And essentially, like West Park Village, if you think about the downtown area there, then there's townhouses, then there's houses, and they're all connected with multiple streets, and you can walk through all of them, you can do a run club through all of them, and they have a very close-knit community, and people that live in those houses, potentially the people that live in Arlington, when downtown is developed, could potentially use School Street as another way to walk or to access downtown. So I just bring that up, not to say that I'm on the, you know, I'm not on the fence either way.
Sure, it's a good point.
But it is a benefit to have those connections. Not that I necessarily think all those cars should be driving out onto Arlington, but from a walkability standpoint, access, you know, with your neighbors, there are some.
Make it a
benefits
golf
there.
cart path. Problem solved.
Yep. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I only have a couple things. It's just the beginning of the development agreement request. So Gabby basically said, Jerry and all of us have said a lot that I don't need to repeat, but I do have one question, and I guess this question would be for Bruce. Would we be allowed to offer this to Davis Buse or a different developer to sell the land to? That's question one. And question two is, we just hired that new real estate firm to handle our property. Are they involved in this?
They're not, because basically the discussions have been ongoing for a period of time. Of course, there's no purchase and sale agreement. There's actually one drafted, but y'all haven't approved it, nobody signed it. So legally, you can do that. I would have some problem with, that's why, you know, it's here tonight to take some official action. But, you know, in this business, I tell people, you never know until the vote is taken. So this is a project is a long way from being done, or even a done deal or anything like that. So you have the rezoning, although I think that should be done irregardless of what happens here. You're going to have a development agreement, and at some point, if this goes forward, you're going to have a purchase and sale agreement coming before you. So I would just have some concern about good faith negotiations that have taken place up to this point, and just kind of, you know, going like that.
We can always adjust it later on.
The last thing I just want to say is I like the project basically because of the short the plaza that's across the street where the Moose Club is. I think that's going to bring more opportunity for growth in businesses of those little shops right along the street there. So I actually like the project.
Yeah.
That's it, Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask one? So let me ask the city manager. So I understand that you've been negotiating in good faith, and that's important for the city. But would you suggest that we not approve this if we think that there might be other suitors, so that it doesn't, you know, my concern is whether or not
Give them a fair chance.
we're getting, you know, the most we can, because he's the only one we talked to.
Well, a couple of points regarding that question is, if this thing proceeds on through the various steps that would be required, it's probably mid to late September before everything would be approved at the earliest. So it's kind of like, this is not a secret now.
Sure.
So I'd kind of be thinking, if someone wanted to come in and make a substantially higher offer, I mean, it's public record what the potential sales price is, then we're not going to tell them it's too late, because there is no purchase and sale agreement.
Good enough.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that was probably.
And if I could, I just, before you ask another question, and to that, I think, and I guess to Dan's point too, is that property has been sitting there, and I mean, John Buse owns property across the street. There are other developers that have done things in the community, including the one down there by the Safety Harbor Bridge. And, you know, I don't know exactly logistically how it worked, but, you know, I think John Buse saw an opportunity to partner with the city on Hayes Park Village and came to us. So this is in his backyard. I would think that if he thought that it was viable, that he probably would have approached us as well.
He will after this meeting if it is something he's
I
even
mean,
considering or not.
if there is some legitimate interest, someone will approach us. I asked that question just because I realize that it puts the city manager and the city kind of in a, you know, potentially not the best position in terms of dealing in good faith. Because I know it's been worked on for a while.
I think we should go on with this. Can I make an amendment to this thing?
There's no agreement, so I'm not sure what you'd be amending.
Can I ask my questions first and then?
I had, you want to answer his question first?
What, I don't know, there's nothing to amend, we don't have anything in
Yeah,
front.
there
I
is.
mean, you don't even have a motion at this point.
Yeah, we don't have a motion and we don't have anything.
Okay, well, how do we do this? Because
Can you be more specific?
to take out School
Take
Street.
out the street access.
To do that, though, Jerry.
Huh?
It's too soon to do that. That's when it comes back.
No,
I mean,
it's not too soon for me, because I don't want, if we let it go like this, School Street's gonna stand there forever.
I do not believe that to be the case.
I would hope you're right, but
I know 2 votes that wouldn't support it, so, you know, it doesn't take much more.
And I would think that in the good faith negotiations, that the city manager and or attorney would indicate that the city council isn't crazy about, whichever way we stand, I don't know. But if I'm hearing Jerry and, you know, others correct, that, you know, there's some hesitancy on School Street, let's just put it that way.
why don't we just make a motion and a second and
The reason I wouldn't want you to do that, there's not even been a staff review.
Yeah, I think it's too early.
No, I mean, make a motion and push this thing forward.
Okay.
I move that we,
Okay,
I'm sorry, would you like to finish, Mr. Mayor?
well, I guess to that point, didn't we already kind of preliminarily bring the site
How
plan
about
past
I'll make a
us?
motion to authorize the city manager to negotiate the development agreement for the construction.
I'll second it.
Okay, second. Now can I ask my questions?
Well, actually, I did have a follow-up point to
what you get for going
Mr.
last.
Seidel's question.
I'm going first next time.
And that would be particularly regarding what property within the CRA that we own might sell for. And of course, that varies not only on where it is, but what's the intended use. As an example, this is zone TCCN. This would apply to other properties. It allows both residential and commercial or mixed use. But I think everyone would agree, we have some experts here among us about real estate, but if it's, if the use is commercial, generally that's going to bring a higher price than if it's residential property. And in the CRA particularly, as opposed to just other land that we might own, you may not always be looking for the top dollar, because what I would say is a more important factor is you want to know what's going there and have some say in what's going to be on the property.
That is what's important.
So it's not just the top dollar. I can tell you that we would make a profit as this thing's proposed. But anyway, that was just another point that particularly in the CRA, there's more than top dollar to look at.
Well, and to that point, and you lead into my next comment, but to that point, you also have, you know, a community center doesn't add anything to the tax base, where this adds 52 townhomes to our tax base as well. And to your point of controlling it, that was going to be my next comment, is although we didn't own Welling to the States, we were part of the deal because of the State Street extension, so we had a little bit of a dog in the fight. And, you know, I remember the pushback that we got from that on, you know, can't we just leave it alone? Well, the developer, at that time it was a private owner, you know, he bought it to develop. And I was telling Bruce tonight that originally when that thing came before us, it was like duplexes or something like that, or affordable housing, I think.
Affordable housing,
With a price point of way low. And I think everybody would agree that what went in there that actually sold out, I think, before they even went vertical, has been a great asset to the community. And the other one, which the property we did own, is Tuscany Woods. that, we got some pushback from that as well, that, and so I think we buy property to, as you said, and Jerry has said this before, Tuscany Woods, that corner piece at Forest Lakes and Pine could have been a 3 or 4 story office building. It could have been a Thornton's. It could have been a multitude of things, correct? If we had not bought it and did the things that we did to it to somewhat control.
That's why we bought it.
And I think that's true with a lot of the property, including the Goodrich property next door. I think they originally wanted, $5 million for that thing, and we got it for a song. Wasn't it 4 or 5 million? 4.5 million. Yeah. So, what might we do with it? I don't know, but it's the we that control what goes on there.
The development on State Street, what was the development that?
Galleria?
Who?
The Galleria?
No, the one you just talked about with the houses there.
Oh, Wellington Estates.
Wellington Estate. The first thing that was going out there that tried to buy it was a commune church. That was the first thing that.
Yeah. So there is some value in us, acquiring some land. Just to that, and that was really a statement. And this isn't really a question, but Sudi brought it up, and I think Gabby brought it up about the stormwater. But that'll be addressed as part of the the site plan review and all of that. I don't really have an opinion at this time on the school drive, be there or not be there. I think there's some advantages and disadvantages to it. I certainly wouldn't maybe want another community coming through my community, but downtown is a different animal, as Gabby mentioned, and I think that one of the components of this is that, as you mentioned, West Chase, that it's not a walled-off community that's separated from the rest. There's no walls. Everybody's free to maneuver around and walk to the library and walk to whatever else gets developed, up down the road. So
West Chase only has one entrance in and one entrance out.
Well, no, West Chase
has one entrance in and one entrance out. One entrance in and one entrance out. And entrance in and one entrance out.
You're talking about Wellington Estates.
No, I'm talking about West Chase.
West Chase has you can come in from Racetrack Road and from Sheldon Road.
When you go into the community center where all the buildings and all the stores are, you have to go in and come out the same way.
Yeah, there's a multitude of different combinations in there, but.
You can navigate there.
Yeah, you can navigate. So at any rate, that's all I have. I don't really have any questions. I think they've been addressed. I think we addressed most of the comments that were brought up by the citizens. Again, this is just one step. Then there'll be 2 public hearings, as you indicated. So that'll be another opportune time for us to review it and for comment to come, and they will be tied to the particular item at the time. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Is that a 5?
No.
Okay. All those opposed? No. Passes 4-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
I say that because that's what the comment I made.
I understand. That's your right. You don't have to justify. Hey,
Item 12, authorize the city attorney to prepare an ordinance amending the Land Development Code to permit automobile sales in the C3 zoning district by conditional use. Marie Dauphiné, our planning director and redevelopment director, will present this item also.
Overtime.
Here's the other item we're going to talk about now, that 2 lots sits in the middle of industrial land. 2 lots.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, this is a text amendment to the Land Development Code to allow retail sales and display of automobiles, boats, mobile homes within the C3 commercial wholesale and warehousing district as a conditional use. So it would be permitted, but you'd have to go through that other review process as far as a conditional use. The text would be added to section 5.7.4.3 under conditional uses, retail sales and display of automobiles, boats, and mobile homes. So this map shows that there's only 11 properties in the city that are zoned C3. They're concentrated along Forest Lakes Boulevard to the east, across from Abertine, the apartment complex. They also are along south of Tampa Road, west of Pine Avenue. So
is that one in the corner? Is that Gulf Development or Gulf?
Yes, yes it is. So this conditional use, they will not allow automobile sales in the M1 district. It will only be C3, and it will only be by approval of a conditional use. So here is photographs, shows Scarlet Boulevard, 131 and 143. So the C3 property is adjacent to those properties. And staff is recommending approval. We don't think there's any negative impact allowing this type of use in the C3 district by approval of conditional
It's gonna be the
use.
same as it is right now.
Yes,
I'll
so
make
if
it-
somebody
I'll-
wants to do that, it'll come before you again, so they will show you how they're going to construct or operate their
Well, to
business.
move it on, I'll make a motion to do it.
I second.
Well, before we do that, can we ask questions of staff before we get the motion, so we have all the answers? If we can
And
just
the
do that
applicant is-
procedurally, if we could just do it
Is
that way.
also
thank you.
here too to answer any questions that you might have.
Who is?
The applicant.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I think Bruce told me today that you could sell, what'd you say? You could sell tractors and trucks and every heavy equipment?
equipment.
You could sell heavy equipment on there, but you couldn't sell a car,
Correct,
so.
correct.
Yeah,
It just doesn't make sense.
and
so.
nobody.
No, you'd still have to comply with all the regulations,
Yeah.
30% has to be open storage and sales area, so you'd have to maneuver the site, and, the display of automobiles would have to meet code and be fenced.
And they're already there. Bruce and I talked about it the other day. I mean, how this got screwed up this way, we really couldn't come up with how it got screwed up this way.
Any-
I think it's when you were on council.
That's what I was just gonna say. I was just
Pretty
gonna,
sure you were mayor at the
I was
time.
just gonna say. Yeah, it's that pickup truck you're driving.
To David Wilson.
Thick skin, gang.
All right, any questions of staff?
But you are wearing it down.
Any questions of staff?
No.
No? Any questions of the applicant?
No.
Applicant's not here.
Thanks. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
I think I made the motion, didn't
Well,
I?
I didn't ask for it. I didn't call for it yet, so.
Here, we got ripped off.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Yes.
Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor and council, the next item, adopt resolution 2017-07, authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with CSX and the Florida Department of Transportation for the installation of grade crossing traffic control devices and future maintenance and adjustment of said devices at Forest Lakes Boulevard. So as the council is well aware, this is part of a long-going project, actually involving 3 railroad crossings, the closing of Exeter, which has already occurred, improvement at Forest Lakes Boulevard, primarily by the installation of gates, and a new railroad crossing at Burbank. Just some further background, you may recall that almost a year ago, I think it was in August of last year, the council approved a similar agreement, same 3 parties. There's like a master agreement that covers all 3, and then when we get down to doing one by one, we have these other agreements. So I think it was last August, the council approved a similar agreement, except we were paying for it, which was what we understood all along. Dealing with the railroad, they like to get paid in advance. Who wouldn't? But anyway, so we actually sent them about $435,000 for this project. In the 11 months that have transpired since then, about $45,000 has been spent on engineering and design of the project. So we have left of that funds about $390,000, and we have verification from CSX that will be transferred and will be given credit, and that funding will be moved towards the Burbank crossing. So that's very good news for us. Under this proposed agreement, DOT is going to pay for the work. The city's responsibility is half of the annual maintenance cost, which is currently $1,800 a year. I'll read the resolution number 2017-07. A resolution authorizing execution of a railroad reimbursement agreement for the installation of grade crossing traffic control devices and future maintenance and adjustment of said devices, providing for the expenditure of funds and providing for an effective date. That's the reading of Resolution 2017-07 by title only. I recommend its adoption.
Thank you. Need a motion for discussion?
Moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion on this item?
The only thing that now we won't have to watch the things go up and down across here.
Yeah. There's another one. I think we're getting, if I recall right, maybe I'm hallucinating, but aren't we getting credit, or didn't we get credit for the one that's down there on Linebaugh near Wilski that was originally going to be a road that's in the middle of a cow pasture that sits out there and it just goes like this. When the train goes by, they just go up and down and the cows look at it like, what's going on? So I thought we got credit for, because remember because they wouldn't allow so many to be put in, and
You have to have 3 to get 1 new one.
Right.
And they gave us that
So
one.
we gave up Exeter, we are improving Forest Lakes, or getting Forest Lakes Boulevard improved. But as I recall, the 3rd one is actually in St. Petersburg.
Oh, it is? I thought it was that one out in the
I
cow
thought it was
pasture.
that one too.
I did too.
Yeah.
Can I challenge you?
We needed that for
Use
the
that,
cows.
maybe we can bank that one for future.
It's just sitting out there in a field over by the transfer station, so maybe they use it for something else. Anyway, I digress. Motion and a second. Any other discussion on this? I think it's great that the DOT is, stepped up and we'll get a credit, for that moving forward, so. Any other questions or discussion?
No.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? 5-0, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The next item, approve request to waive rental fees attributed to the Hope You Can Hold Incorporated Zombie Shuffle.
Oh, I thought we scratched this item.
Scheduled for October 28th at the Oldsmar Sports Complex and Trail. The amount of the fee waiver is $500. Hope You Can Hold is a 501c3 corporation. If you have any questions or comments, I'd be happy to respond to those. I recommend approval.
Yeah, and this is something that our city clerk, Ann Nixon, has started, along with the things that she does with the beads and what have you. And just for the record, the waiving of fees, I just want it to be, because we haven't talked about it in a while, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, that we somewhat developed a criteria because we didn't really have a rhyme or reason to why we were waiving certain fees and not others. So we kind of developed a criteria that if you didn't fall into that criteria, was that about 5 years ago?
Probably was.
Am I explaining it correctly? But yeah.
Yeah. Now they have to complete an application and
Right.
tell us more about what they're doing and who
Because
they
otherwise,
are.
everybody was coming to us and asking us to waive, and so we had to develop some
I'll
kind of
give
a.
you a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Ayes 5-0. Yay.
I'm going. I'm dressing up.
As yourself.
As yourself.
Stand and shuffle.
Be a
Whenever
bald
I look
zombie.
at Ann, I will look at her a little different now.
Next.
The next item, 15, approve renewal of use agreement with Oldsmar Falcon Youth Football and Cheerleading Incorporated. This is an annual renewal of the use agreement for football and cheerleading use at Oldsmar Sports Complex. There have been some changes to the previous agreement. It does cover their season, and it would be effective today if you approve it and run to June 30th of 2018.
And that also affects the next item too, right? They both have basically.
Sure, I might as well cover them both
Right.
there. Next one is the renewal of the use agreement with Oldsmar Youth Soccer. So our Leisure Services Director, Felicia Donnelly, sat down with both of the parties since, as you know, they share these fields, and actually their seasons overlap to some degree also. And the new agreements specify that their use of the fields are related to the number of Oldsmar residents that they serve in the programs, and that's reflected in the agreement. And then that also is related to the amount of reimbursement they pay a share of the electricity. And there again, that's now going to be tied to the time or their amount of field usage, which makes sense, doesn't it? So the two leagues are in agreement. They've already executed these new agreements. But if you have any questions or comments, we'd be happy to respond to those. I recommend approval of the use agreement with Oldsmar Falcon Youth Football.
Actually, if there's no objection from council, I need a motion for items 15 and 16
So moved.
So, second?
together. Motion and a second. If there's no discussion or reason to separate them, all those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, thank you.
Good work.
Yes, sir. Item 17, approve First Amendment to Facility Use Agreement with St. Petersburg College for a period of 2 years, terminating on August 18, 2019. So this is for the building across the parking lot from us that has been used now by the college for 2 years. There are no change to the terms. It just extends that agreement for 2 more years until August of 19. I recommend approval of the amendment to extend the agreement for a 2-year period.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor and council, the next item, consider proposed millage rate for FY 17-18. The proposed millage rate is 4.05 mils, which if approved, I think that would be the same rate we've had for 10 years, beginning in 2008. The city's taxable value has increased in the current year, And so this 4.05 would exceed the rollback millage rate of 3.918 mils. And at this time, whatever millage rate y'all agree upon or decide this evening is what we would send to the property appraiser and goes out on the trim notices. As the budget process moves forward, as you know, you could establish a lower millage rate, but nothing higher than what is put forth this evening. Well, I could go into some of the numbers, but I don't really plan to do that this evening. I'm recommending that you authorize us to submit a millage rate to the property appraiser for purposes of the trim notification of 4.05 mils for the upcoming fiscal year.
I'll give you a motion to authorize that.
And in a second for discussion, and I just bring it up for the record. I think the number was, we talked about it today, 182,000 some odd dollars. That's the hit from the homestead exemption in today. 187. And we feel that even with that hit, that we can accommodate it with the same millage, although we're going to have another chance because that wouldn't go into effect till 19, but that, so it really kind of is a non-issue. But I mentioned to Bruce, do we have any feel out? Of course, we're potentially going to be adding 52 townhomes. We're adding 165 homes at whatever that thing's called, Bayside. And
Property values are going to go up.
the property values are going to go up. Is
7-8%.
there any projections on what we think that might be, where we might be in taxable value at the time that is, and that it might be an offset? I know that's a
They're going up.
very difficult question.
Every day they're going up.
Well, and I say that because I'm on several different boards that this is affecting the PSTA and, all those, and we're trying to figure out, guesstimate what the true hit is.
I think if you believe the local newspaper, that it was projected somewhere around 7.8% for Pinellas. That's what I read. Now, I didn't specify for Oldsmar. I was trying to find it. Not sure where they came up with the number, but that's for current. So,
Anyway, that's just a thought, but, that's for a millage rate next year, I guess, would be the discussion.
Well, I have to tell you, I haven't done any projections that far out.
Any particular reason?
What?
Any particular reason?
I just couldn't help it.
Yeah, you short timers.
short timers.
Man, oh man.
You got a motion in a second?
I got a motion in a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, thank you.
Thank you. Item 19, approve proposed Penny for Pinellas projects 2020 to 2030. So as you're aware, the referendum is scheduled for November for renewal of the penny for the next decade of 2020 to 2030. Earlier, I believe it was in May, the council approved allocations, and these percentages were established. The council approved those in these 5 major categories. I think that occurred in May. So since then, I've added some descriptions as to what would be included under these major categories. And under leisure services, we have the Oldsmar Sports Complex and also a community center. Stormwater projects would be selected based on the watershed management plan to be completed in 2018 or next year. And of course, we're talking about money that we would start to receive hopefully in 2020. Other items listed here in the description include a parking garage. I would point out that I don't expect you could build a parking garage for, $2.6 million, but that would be the potential allocation for a project such as that. And also under economic development, land acquisition, purchase of land for manufacturing, industrial, or corporate headquarters, the purpose to provide high-wage jobs. And I've got to elaborate on that last one just a little bit. I don't think it would be appropriate, to buy land to, so we could get a Target or an Outback Steakhouse. Nothing against them, but they don't provide high-wage jobs. So y'all might want to make changes this evening, but the purpose is that as we get closer to the referendum and voters ask, or we want to be able to share with voters, what are you going to spend the money on? What are you going to do with the money? So that's why, we've added these projects and descriptions, to tell people, well, we're going to spend X amount on economic development. That doesn't really tell them a whole lot.
Is this going out anywhere to the residents in the newsletters or anything in the mail?
Well, it hasn't yet. I'm going to defer that to Ann, maybe as far as what happens between now and November and how we are working jointly with the county and the other cities.
Well, the way they work this computer thing next door or across the street over there, I think they can do an incredible job of getting it out.
I'll just say I mention it because the house I have in St. Pete, the utility bill, I got actually their penny for Pinellas on a nice little sheet, and I was like, oh, that's actually pretty neat, and it broke out how they were planning to spend it and those things just for the residents, so I bring it up.
And I don't know, to your point, I think that's a great idea locally at our level, but then I think the county is going to then assemble all of these and probably do something as part of the campaign, I would guess, but go ahead, Ann.
We certainly have a good promotional tool and a marketing device with utility billing insert that we'll be using more to help bring awareness to the Penny for Panels projects and benefit to the residents. And then we're also having an open house here in Council Chamber to answer citizens' questions.
Awesome.
And we have advertised that in the utility billing insert already.
Awesome.
It's a good thing to educate them.
Yep.
Because we've used a ton of money. I mean, it's helped every citizen in this city, that 1 cent.
Well, that does remind me, I mean, I don't have it with me tonight, but I think like a month or so ago, we passed out distributed a list of every penny project we've done since the very beginning in 1990, which I think is also great information to share with the voters.
Yeah.
And I can't remember where I saw it or if it was somebody that came and spoke to us, but Pinellas County has developed a map that's like, it's got all the projects that have been happening, so you can kind of go in there and touch each one of them and see what's been done, from, road construction to, this building to a multitude of things and everything in between, so.
Well, Oldsmar was one of the only cities in 1990, thanks to Bruce. And the county acknowledged that we were the only ones that really used the money, what it was meant for.
Yep.
I think we have been pretty consistent in that.
Good.
Yes. And, well, not only what you can legally use it for, but in what we told the voters we were going to use it for.
And we used it for that. And the county, some of the county officials commented on that.
Yeah, for the most part, I think, if nothing else, at least it stays in the same category. Like the community center, we moved it to canal, so it still stayed in recreation. We didn't take the money and build roads, and we didn't take roads and build, so at any rate. Having said that, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Well, who got it? Oh, you gave it to Eric, huh? You can hear him first. Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you. City Clerk, Ms. Zombie?
Nothing, but thank you so much for approving the Zombo Shuffle waiver. That'll be
Yeah, I
Zombo
can't wait to
Shuffle.
see how you're dressed. The picture. I just pictured that Thriller video from Michael Jackson for some reason. And by having said that, I worked in radio with the girl that was right next to Michael Jackson in that Thriller video. So yeah, that was pretty neat. So she
dressed that way up in the radio station?
Yep. No, it's a big world actually, Ann. If you've ever really try to walk it someday.
Working with you.
Tell me how small the world is. Yeah, try walking it when somebody says. Next city council, schedule a work session for the 2017-2018 budget. We have August 8th and 22nd. I'm good on either, so whoever's got a conflict. Jerry, I know you always have a conflict.
I can't do the 22nd.
Okay, then how about the 8th? Does the 8th work for everybody?
I was going to be in Key West that day.
Oh, between you and Seidel with the Key West stuff.
I'm available both days, Mr. Mayor.
Wow.
Good.
I'm in
I
Las
believe you
Vegas
met
for the
Councilmember
Cisco Sales
McGee and the
Conference.
Vice Mayor.
Can't do it on the 22nd?
No, it's our Cisco Sales Conference every year after the City Council League Conference in Las Vegas, Monday through
What was the
Friday.
day?
August 8th or 22nd, but Gabby's got the 22nd. Hey, we canceled the July 4th meeting for you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Remember that? At your request, we canceled the
And you
July.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did.
We were here.
Friday.
We all came.
We were all here.
Yeah, the 23rd to the, or the.
I know that nobody cares, but in 28 years, I have never missed a council
You're not
meeting.
going to Florida, right? Because you're in Key
We
West.
can't get rid of you.
I have never missed a council meeting. When I
We
had
even
my
tried
knee-
locking the doors.
When I had my knees cut off and thrown in a garbage can, I came to a council meeting with that thing.
Yep. What do you got? 8th? Is it?
I don't know what to do. I'm
Yeah,
going
we're
to be in Key
both out,
West.
so we have to pick a different day.
Well, let me
Want to revisit?
throw out August 10th, which is tentatively scheduled for city manager interviews, but like those are potentially the 9th through the 11th. I don't foresee it
How
taking
about
3
the
whole
11th?
days or whatever.
Oh,
Well, I know Dan couldn't do the 9th, right, Dan? So we'll probably do the interviews on the 10th.
I can't do the 9th. I would rather do the interviews. What's that now? So you're saying the 10th for
That
the,
was my third suggestion, was Thursday the 10th, but that's probably
Is the 10th gonna be okay? I'll just
Not
come home
good.
early.
Yeah, but so maybe, so you're saying the 10th on the same day as the interviews, or should we do Friday, the 11th in the morning?
I like the Friday 11th.
I'm just thinking.
so you're thinking we'll be done with the interviews, or it'll be resolved by the 9th, and we may not even need the 10th. I like that idea.
I'm gonna come back early.
No, I think no matter what, the interviews are happening.
On the 9th.
No, I thought Dan had a conflict on the night.
Yeah, I thought we changed it. Accommodate.
I think it's
Accommodate.
the 10th.
I don't know, my calendar says city manager interview 9th, 10th, and 11th, so.
Do you know, Dean?
Sorry, guys.
Can you dig us out of this hole?
I'm leaving the 4th.
Scheduled 3 days for interviews based on the July 20th meeting with the consultant to determine how do you want to do the interviews, individually, as a group, individually and as a group. That was going to be determined at the July 20th meeting.
Okay.
How about the 11th?
The 11th would work.
I could do the morning of the 11th.
Does that work? How long do we think? A couple hours in the morning? 9 to, I know it's
The
the,
budget?
yeah.
9 to noon?
9 to noon.
9 at noon? You just want lunch.
whenever y'all sit. I mean, I'll certainly be here.
Are you still gonna be here, Bruce?
Unless I get sick or something, which I'm not counting on.
Why don't Bruce and me just go ahead and do it by ourselves?
I'm gonna be here. I'll be here too.
Okay, so the 9 o'clock on the 11th? Does
Will that work? That
that
works
work
for me.
I can do that, yeah.
that work for staff?
11.
I'm gonna just
That
come home
work for
early.
staff?
Picnic at noon.
Yeah, I know. That's why to get done.
I'm bringing lobsters back, so we'll all have lobster.
We'll be ready
All right.
Okay,
for lunch.
for lunch, yeah.
Meeting person.
Yeah, and we're doing it at the rec center.
So the budget work session is now scheduled for Friday, August 11th, beginning at 9 a.m. It will be held in the work session room here in the council chambers.
All right, you don't need anything from us? You got it?
You don't have to vote on that.
Good.
no.
All right, that's it. Council comments? Keep them brief.
You looking at me? I'm going?
I'm actually got eyes in the back of my head, but
I go.
go ahead.
Hey, this is, this passport to the future. It's a cute idea. I love it. I don't know how many of them we have, but it's kind of be a cool thing to hand out to some of the folks. I don't know.
Staff's getting them. Staff gets them.
Very cool. It's got all of our goals and some of the objectives we set, where we've been, where we're going. I think it's a really cute idea.
At first, I had only seen it in front of Jerry, and I thought, what in the world does he have?
Well, I have to tell you,
Go on. You don't need a passport to leave Oldsmar.
it'll be in your inbox, but I'll tell you what, it was funny because we just were in Cuba and traveling, and all of our passports were sitting out. And I emptied out all the stuff from the clerk's office, and it fell right next to it, and I'm like, what is that? It was kind of
That
cool.
probably will get you nowhere in Cuba.
You know, I don't know if, you know, we all received the message, or I guess the letter rather, regarding litter concerns and cleanup in the area. I don't know if you probably got it. It was a hard copy that we got. And, you know, it made me think a little bit. I don't see it as prevalent as the person who wrote in, but, you know, it wouldn't hurt that maybe we consider, you know, just some kind of educational campaign. I remember years and years ago, I'm going to date myself on this, the old pitch-in campaign, remember that? And it did, you know, that was the day back when people would throw stuff out the window of their car, like never thought anything about it. I don't think we have any kind of problem like that, but maybe the pitch in and pick up, some kind of campaign that might just, you know, further talk about our responsibilities as citizens in the community, that kind of stuff. But I don't know, I just mentioned it because someone brought it to our attention.
Well,
Yeah.
a number of the things in the letter we cannot do. It's against the law. Probably most of the trash that we get is thrown out by somebody that doesn't live in the city of Oldsmar.
That's true.
Well, and I know we had that incident, and maybe the deputies can look into it. When Don was here, there was somebody he continued along Tampa Road, kind of by Lockheed Martin to the movie theater. He would pick up trash and stick it on the telephone poles, put it behind wires, and to say how, you know, of course that's a state road, but I think he had the kids, I think, that were in putting in community hours. He would get them to come out periodically and help pick up some of that I don't know, periodically, but, the guy was putting in, big pieces of plywood and stuff hanging, the big concrete poles. Yeah, it looked hideous.
It's happened since then. I think Deputy Caccolo has been involved in at least one of those campaigns.
Oh, okay, good.
We have a group of kids, I want to say there are about 15 kids that are serving community service for the 8 hours.
Nice.
So all we do is there's a program through the sheriff's office that
Perfect.
we can call and basically schedule on our weekend to come out and do some street.
That's why you're the Deputy of the Year.
That's it.
Anything else?
That's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. First thing I just want to say, while you guys were at the disc golf course throwing discs in the water, I was at the Suncoast League of Cities annual planning retreat, and I just wanted to give you guys an update that the city of Oldsmar will be hosting a lunch right here in this room on January 19th. I'd like you guys all to attend if you could, please.
Man, your head is shiny today.
Sorry, buddy. Put some gloss on it.
Hurley's just zooming in on you today.
Hurley's evil.
On Friday, July 14th, I attended the Florida League of Cities Legislative Policy Committee meeting in Orlando. I am on the Municipality Administration Committee. After a 4-hour discussion, the board voted in that sober homes is the biggest issue in the state of Florida right now, and I just wanted to share that with you. And just to give you some statistics, this has been fueled by a 3-year of insurance fraud. Last year, Delray Beach paramedics responded to over 748 overdose calls, 65 deaths. In Palm Beach County, they dealt with over 5,000 overdose calls. So that's the #1 issue for the Florida League of Cities, is this sober homes. And the problem is Florida does not regulate sober homes, and our goal as a team is to help change that in 2018.
Just a quick question. Dean, do you have any idea what Pinellas County and/or the city of Oldsmar is related to that?
Sober homes, do you have any?
How many?
I was talking to Bruce about that.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot, and if you don't, it might be interesting to have at some point.
Yeah.
No, actually, Pinellas County is working on a task force right now to come up with some numbers associated to that. We're not seeing that in the north part of Pinellas at this time. We're seeing more in the mid to south parts. Numbers are increasing. It's a bigger problem on the east coast of Florida at this time. But Dan and I talked about it last, Councilmember Strike and I talked about it last week. And we're starting to see it move more into southern Pinellas, but we expect to see it in the next 6 months to a year here in northern Pinellas as well. And it's related directly to the opioid crisis in the United States. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is huge in the Midwest.
The only thing I would say, though, a comment about the statistic is Delray Beach is our largest area of concentration of rehabilitation. So I would think that that could potentially be skewing that number because there's a lot of rehab facilities where that's a lot of people actually go there for rehab. So.
Yeah, they do.
When do you think they'll have something for Pinellas?
I don't have a date for it.
I mean, within a year or 2 years?
No, I think it'd be less than that. The medical director's office and the fire administration's looking at it.
That'd be very interesting to see the breakdown. Are they going to break it down by like municipality or North County, Mid County, South County? No idea.
Too early in the process.
Okay.
So.
Perfect. Thanks.
And the other thing is, one of the discussion that was really intense was about the CRA funds. The city of Oldsmar has done a great job with our CRA, but some of the cities have been misusing the funds for the CRA, and that was really big topic of discussion last week. Just wanted to share that with you.
Cities like that is what really screws it up.
Yeah.
Right,
For the rest of
Probably
exactly.
Tallahassee came from.
And there was some pretty pissed off people at that meeting talking about that. That's a shame, it really is.
The CRA is not the only thing that people have abused, in municipalities, so.
And then the other thing I want to just say, Tom Trask, your employee Kathy, is that Tokas? Is that how you say that? I just want to say thank you for keeping us updated on all the legislative news. I think that is fantastic what
It's been
she's
very
been
helpful.
doing. And I just want you to say that's a great job and keep going, don't stop. I really appreciate that. Tell her that for me, would you please? Thank
For
you.
us, from all of us.
Yeah, from all of us, yes. And then,
Except, is it possible that you could find some good news in there from?
Yeah.
That something great is happening?
And last thing, I just want to say the Spirit Award, Deb, Polly, thank you so much for all your hard work in the application, not telling me about it. That was the best part about it. At the Florida League of Cities, we had a happy hour on Friday night. I went to the happy hour, and I talked to, what's her name, Holly, is how you say, Holly McPhail? She was there, and she said this year, for the applications, the Florida League of Cities got the most applications ever in the history of applying for awards. So Deb, you should be very honored for achieving that award. Thank you for all your hard work. Just wanted to say that.
And I was so excited that Sharon called me because she couldn't get a hold, I don't know who she was trying to get, oh, you had some like wedding thing going on or something? I don't know, some wedding, so now I said, I'm calling Deb anyway, I don't care if it's her wedding weekend, I'm calling her. So she started screaming on the other end of the phone.
I actually read the entire application after you and I had that big hug, and I read the entire thing, all the letters from the Centennial Task Force. Very, very well done. Thank you so much.
Good.
That's it.
Thanks. Councilmember McGee?
I only have one thing, and it was kind of a fun trivia fact. So a couple weeks ago, I was traveling for a work event in France, and I traveled over to the eastern side of France to a little town called Colmar. It's about a 2-hour train ride from Paris. And I rented a car, and I was driving into the town, and there was a replica of the Statue of Liberty. And I thought, what in the world, you know? So I thought, how neat is this? And it happened to be the 4th of July. And so I'm driving around, and the town is actually the birthplace of the sculptor of the Statue of Liberty, August Bartholdi. And I thought that was pretty neat. Thing.
Especially the timing.
Yeah, the timing was unbelievable, but I didn't realize that that's where he lived or anything of that nature. So I thought that was kind of neat to share, and that's all I had.
Pretty cool.
Councilmember Bieberlin? Nope, you don't have anything? All right, good.
We're gonna be here another hour. This is good.
It's really neat.
This is why I will continually support the city clerk's office handling the arts in the city of Oldsmar because they're so creative.
Yeah, Chris does a great
I
job.
think the art system should be put in there. In fact, they want it. That's just a comment. I also want to comment on the book you all just put out about the budget. What an incredible book.
The yearbook?
The budget.
Oh, the budget.
It is the yearbook in a way.
Oh, I don't know who you were pointing at, because Dean said something.
We really need to create a reward for the design of that book. I mean, somehow, how many people worked on that? Everybody?
My staff and Chris Hannon was vital to the design work, which is where I think the graphics come together, the photos.
That was
the clerk's office came up with the idea for the photo contest to kind of bring the community involved in the process.
It's
So-
really an incredible book. It really is. And I thank you all for that. And Cindy, congratulations again. Y'all got my letter about the bicentennial. Okay. I would suggest with the city manager's okay that unbelievable that it goes to you and to the rec board and make recommendations out of it, and then we can discuss it in 4 or 5 or 6 other council meetings, because I think bicentennial is the perfect spot for this community center. All of that land was under the authority back in the 70s, which means you can, when you go into Bicentennial Way, that fence on the east side could be taken out. That land's all part of the same land. The sewer plant doesn't need all that land. You probably gain another acre or 2, and you can have an incredible community center there that will more than rival the success of Cypress Forest's community center. I think Southern Oldsmar needs that. We need it here. And that's the perfect place for it. This should excite some of you people. That would showcase that zip line
that you love,
that you all voted on. So I would like to bring this back to council in I don't know, a couple of months, and then discuss it at a regular meeting. That's fine. Thank you. And then I gave you another short paper about another trail here in the city of Oldsmar. And when I presented it to the city manager, his first comment was, another trail? Like, I'm sorry, Bruce, if I brought up another trail. And then he sat there and smiled and really enjoyed himself. I've been mayor for 10 years. I've been a council member going on 28 years. And to have your city manager correct you is sort of embarrassing.
oh, please retell the story. I want to hear what he said. Yeah, what? I want to hear the whole thing. I want to hear how he corrected you. For the record.
CXS does not own the spur.
Oh, I knew that. Duke Energy.
I didn't. Duke Energy owns the spur. Thank you all.
I knew that.
But anyway,
Yeah.
I think that would make a great trail if you all have ever examined it. It's just sitting there waiting to be a trail.
What about that, was it the
And it
Progress
take-
Energy Trail he wanted connection?
And it takes you right to the Twin Lakes.
Yeah, but it would be pretty tough to cross Tampa Road.
No, it doesn't.
But the railroad trail.
You don't cross Tampa
No, it doesn't
Road.
cross Tampa Road.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the.
Starts right there by the flea
The
market.
spur,
There,
the spur,
oh,
the
the
spur
spur, okay.
is just a little ways
okay.
east
I'm with you.
of the Burbank
And you'd have to
project.
duck down to walk under Forest Lakes Boulevard, right? You
That
have to
could-
squat down to get underneath
That
that.
could be worked out somehow. Anyway, I would just like you all to consider that. And
I just like the fact that you were wrong.
so, I think that the city manager could contact Duke Energy and see if they would cooperate with us. They may even give it to us or let us use it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what the Pinellas Trail is the old, a lot of that, so the old rail line. You done?
That would make a great trail that would connect to the Forest Lakes Trail, and then it take you right to the Twin Lakes. That's all I got. Thank you for who you are.
I have congratulations to the deputy. That was great. You do a lot of great things that people don't know about. So I think I brought this up one time before, and I don't remember where we stand. Were we going to get an update from Holly Greening at some point on what the heck the next step is with that? Holly Greening is part of the group that was looking at the study for the bay and the sediment and all that.
Yeah, but we just approved it, I thought.
Well, you'll be getting an update next month.
Oh, cool.
It won't be from Holly. She is the executive director of the Tampa Bay
Oh, okay.
National Estuary Program, but someone from the staff will be
Oh,
here.
good.
Either the 1st or the 15th of August.
Awesome, because I couldn't remember when I brought it up, but that'd be great, because it's like, okay, now what? It's like, I say this at the MPO or Forward Pinellas, it's like, okay, we study, and then you go, all right, let's do another study, and, if there's no end result. Do you think there will be an end result?
It's hard to say.
You were a betting man.
When will this come up, Bruce?
Next month.
Okay.
This will be on the,
I mean, I know these are some of the I's you got to dot and T's you got to cross to get, the answers to get funding from state or federal or,
this will include the possible dredging.
That's what we're talking about. Well, I mean.
You mean like the dredging of the canal or the dredging of Old Tampa Bay?
Old Tampa Bay.
Well, I'm sure that will be something they could respond to.
Okay, thank you, sir. That's all I wanted to know.
Well, I probably, realistically, I would be less optimistic than I was perhaps several years ago, due primarily to, I think, there's less federal and state funding for projects like that than there was certainly, say, 10 years ago. And going forward, I don't see, unfortunately, much changing. That would be my murky crystal ball.
Murky, keyword. Yeah, I guess the one thing that might have some validity is maybe when they, if you could tie, if there's any way we could tie it to the Courtney Campbell Causeway redesign, that whether they're going to put more ingress, egress of, ebb and flow, if you will, of water. Because I think in my, $2 opinion, I think that's the big cause of that, was just
The research that we had done back when we were over at the old council was ever since they dammed and they built the bridge, that's where the sediment backed up. I mean, that was the cause.
Well, and actually, we thought it was sediment, but it's not. It's organic material that couldn't flush and was dying, and isn't that correct for the most part? That it was organic material that couldn't go anywhere and was dying and just turning into sludge. I remember you telling the story of your kayaking or canoeing trip where you almost went up to your armpits in sludge, wasn't it? By the railroad?
Sludge never happened.
Yes, well, I've done that a couple of times, but yeah.
But we thought it was, initially, I think the thought was that it was sediment out of Lake Tarpon.
It is the sediment out.
Well, that's not what the study says. I mean, I'm sure there is some, but.
No, it's total. The head guy for the Corps of Engineers, you remember, I'm not sure you were at the meeting. We had a huge meeting when I was mayor. The head of the Corps of Engineers, everybody from Tallahassee was there. There must have been 25 people from Tallahassee in a big round table. And I called for the meeting. The Courtney Campbell Causeway did affect the ingrow and outgrow of the tides. But it didn't happen. We had oysters out here, huge oyster beds, huge. Where are they now? They're underneath the sludge and the crap from Lake Tarpon. That's what caused everything.
Well, I would agree with you that the causeway is what caused it, but the report does not support what you're saying. The report says that it's organic material.
What report? They agreed with me.
Oh, the report that we're talking about.
Oh, show me the report.
Well, we have it somewhere, don't we?
Yeah.
I want to see the report.
You were there, because we went 50-50 with Safety Harbor on funding it. $15,000 each we put in. It was a $30,000 study that the two cities paid for. I remember.
Mm-hmm. And it was sediment. It was organic material that was not flushing and died.
It wasn't flushing. It wasn't flushing because the damn water from Lake Tarpon
stopped it.
Just
Just
flooded the head of the Corps of Engineers says he's right. When we dredged the stupid, he didn't say stupid, but it's my word, the stupid canal, they didn't put in the right apparatuses to catch the sludge. And all that crap came down here in this part of the bay and started to die. Before that, it didn't die.
Well, I think the sludge, they consider the sludge to be organic. You might be saying the same thing.
You're right. See, but before that, before the canal was dug, we had inflow
and I think we
outflow.
agree. I think you're using a different term. To me, sediment is, dirt and gravel from roads, but
God,
there's some of that.
Where do you think it came from? 1990, 1989, we didn't have one mangrove in Safety Harbor or the city of Oldsmar. We didn't have.
Beaches? You had beaches?
We had beaches. So what happened? It started to build out here. Before that, the tides took it in. Courtney Campbell has a big part of that. I agree, and they agreed. But now the tides.
I get it. I agree. That's right. Back to my point, maybe if there was ever a way to tie that to the design,
Is there a way we can fix that, or is there no way? There's
Well,
no
we
way,
can't.
right?
Yeah, I mean, that would be a huge federal project, but, if you're doing it, why
They all
not?
tried to make a push when the federal government had that shovel-ready money.
Things change, whatever, but.
They come in and told us, you're right. The big problem
Is the causeway.
The big problem is the flushing of it.
Yeah.
Okay, we got that. But before the outfall canal, it did flush it in and out, flushed it in and out, flushed it in and out, flushed it in and out. And then the canal was dug and all of our seagrass died.
So what he's saying is there's nothing we can do about it. We digress.
Yeah,
So you saw all this happen, Jerry?
Pardon me?
You seen all this happen over the
all over
years?
time.
Yeah,
Oh,
I saw, yeah.
Everybody, a lot of people.
I've lived on the damn bay for 51 years. I saw it happen.
My neighbors would tell me about them going out back and getting oysters.
Yeah.
You
Anyway.
know, their
Oyster
grandparents
beds,
on that.
we had oyster beds out here that were,
How long are we going to talk about
All right.
oyster beds and the?
To my fellow council members, I apologize for bringing that subject up. But we will get an update in the next coming, good. I'd be
that's
curious
good,
to
I
see.
appreciate it.
Good.
I'll be sure to be absent
Now,
on
you-
that.
I'm gonna be in the keys, that's done. Any others? Oh, go ahead.
Something very important that'll take just a moment. We all should wish both Al and Dan a happy birthday tomorrow.
Oh, what? Gabby, you have been booted from the birthday committee.
Home and shame myself.
You are no, yeah, can you look at yourself in the mirror
I
tonight?
don't think I can.
I already bought myself a huge cake.
Oh, what
I
a
can't
shock.
Wait.
You did not, Paula bought it.
Is it a smash
I
cake?
bought it. I'm gonna eat the whole thing.
Oh, my God. Nothing else? Adjourn.
You know, Eric, you could have given me a little heads up.
Sorry.